if you're somebody, hello, if you're somebody that has been struggling with clarity, right? If you've been struggling with clarity and you want to find out what direction that you should be going in with your life, then guess what? The Identify Your Lane podcast is the right podcast for you. Welcome to the Identify Your Lane podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Truelove Jr., and I'm excited to embark on this journey to where we dive into this conversation and this topic about what it is that we're supposed to be doing with our lives. And with doing that, what I wanted to do is to start this off by just talking about the origin of where this came from, because I think that that's important to anything. Like, where did this idea come? How did it come about? And so, in order to do that, I have to start by diving more into who I am and my story and how I got to this place to where I knew that this was something that was needed. And it starts a long time ago. I grew up in the South. I'm from Alabama, a little small place called Sulligent. And like many people that came from, whether it be from the South or just small environments, a lot of times you don't necessarily know what it will take in order for you to get out of the environment, that you're currently in. And so for me, I was grateful to be in a family that had those that came ahead of me to show me the way. And so I'm the youngest of 11 children. Yes, my parents had 11 children, right? And so I'm the youngest one. And my oldest brother, his name is Tony, he played football. And actually, all my brothers played football. But he was the one that made it to the NFL. And being that he's like 20 years older than me, like I was able at an early age to actually see like the fruit of his work, with him, coming from where I came from and actually seeing the lifestyle that he was able to live because of his dedication to football. At that moment, I had this thought that, what, like maybe that's what it will take in order for me to also make it out of my environment to actually accomplish something, to do something with my life. And so that was the very first thing that I thought was going to be my way out, my way to success, my way to living a life of leaving a legacy or doing something that was important. And so I embarked on that journey. I played football in high school, and then I played in college as well. But there was a point in time in college to where I made some decisions that kind of like, derailed my football career. And because of that, my football career came to an end. And then when I finished college, I end up finding myself in this place to where I'm at this dead end. I have a college degree, but the one thing that I felt like was going to allow me to experience something great in life, I no longer have access to that anymore. I no longer see myself doing it anymore. Now I have reached what I felt like was like a dead end in my life. And when I felt like I reached that dead end, it wasn't a good place for me to be in because I didn't see anything else that I could do, or I didn't realize that there were other things that I could do with my life that would allow me to accomplish anything with it. And so because of that, I kind of went down a depressed state. I remember this moment, and I'll never forget it because I was working at FedEx Kinko's. And this one day I was out there and I'm making these copies, and I'm really just sitting there thinking about, man, is this really what your life has come to? You had these big goals, these aspirations, these dreams that you were going to do something with your life, and here you are, college educated, but yet making copies for a living. And that was kind of the beginning of the downhill spiral that I went on, because it wasn't long after that to where I remember even having thoughts like, man, if this is what life is like, then is life even worth living? Like if I'm going to continue to wake up and experience life like this, then why do I want to even experience this life at all? Because at that point in time, it wasn't just that I didn't have football anymore. It was just that, I had other people that were very close to my circle, that they were going off and actually living their dreams. Some of them were playing football. Some of them were doing other things within their careers. but I found myself being stagnant. Not only that, I had some relational issues at the time, and even some health issues. So to me, it seems like everything is hitting me all at the same time. And I'm just like, yo, like this is not something that I want to keep doing. And so I'm sitting there in my car, and on this day, I decided that this is it. This is going to be the day that I end it all. And I sat there. I had my gun in my lap, and I made the decision that I'm going to kill myself. And so as I'm sitting there in the car, I remember closing my eyes, and I see my mother's face. And at that point in time, I was like, man, like my family is going to wonder, like, why did he do this? And so I reached out to a really good friend of mine. I sent a text message to him, and I was like, hey, this is the message that I want you to give to my family. You see, he was close enough to me, but yet he was far enough away to where he couldn't come in and rescue. He couldn't do any of that type of stuff. But he did end up shooting me a couple of text messages off to kind of, get my mind off of where I was at in that particular moment. And when I got my mind off of where I was at in that moment, I had thoughts about not only just what this was going to mean to my family, but part of my story is that I have three siblings that passed away. And I just remember the hurt and the pain, the anguish that I felt, the questions that I asked, even God, about the situation. And what I realized at that moment is that I was going to put my family through that same pain, through that same hurt, through asking those same questions that I felt. I was going to put them through that all over again. And so I made the decision that, you know what, I'm not going to be selfish in this moment. I'm going to push forward, even though I don't know what life looks like after this. I just made a decision that, I'm just going to keep living and just see how this thing plays out. And so not long after that, I relocate to Arizona, which is where the friend that I reached out to, that's where he was living at the time. And I had an opportunity to, relocate, kind of start fresh type of thing. And so while I was there, I ended up, getting to a much better career, and, had a lot of success in my career. I got promoted within 6 months of being in my role there. 6 months after that, I get promoted again. 4 months after that, I get promoted again. And so I'm experiencing what a lot of people would want in life from a career success standpoint. But it just wasn't it for me. Like, it's not that I wasn't a career professional or anything like that, because there's a lot of lessons that I learned over my time there. But there was just this lack of fulfillment that I had just from doing the job that I was doing. I just felt like there was something more that my life was meant to do. And so after having multiple thoughts about, man, is there something more to life that I should be doing? I actually had this idea. I was like, there's this aha moment that I had. I was like, with what I've been through with, depression, with what I've been through with, wanting to commit suicide, nobody knew what I was going through. And I remember that I did some research, and I realized that, 800,000 people a year commit suicide. And a lot of times the individuals that do commit suicide, their families have no idea that they're struggling in that manner, and they leave themselves with questions. And so I was like, man, what if I could create a way to be able to reach people without having to have a conversation with them? And so I was like, man, I'm going to create a clothing line that has these encouraging messages on them that allow people to be able to send a message without verbally having to speak to anybody. And so that's what I started doing. So I did that for a couple of years, and I got to a place to where I was able to leave my corporate job and actually focus fully on my clothing line. And so this was it. I remember, like, that's at one point in time, that's all I wanted to do. And so this was a huge moment for me. And so I'm going throughout life day to day, doing my clothing line, doing those things. But what I realized in my process of doing my clothing line full time is that I didn't necessarily like the day-to-day things that I was doing with the clothing line. Yes, I love the message portion of the clothing line, which actually correlated with why I started it. But my day-to-day wasn't necessarily pushing a message. My day-to-day more so was like spending time like 2 o'clock in the morning printing shirts and doing these types of things. And because of that, man, I was just like, is this it? Like, did I really step into a lane that I was supposed to be in, or Am I not doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing with my life? And so, after having these questions again about what it is that I'm supposed to be doing, I remember I had a meeting, a sit down with my mentor, and he was sitting there and he asked me this question. He was like, Daniel, like, what is it that you feel like that you should be doing with your life? And I remember just sitting there like, okay, what is it that I should be doing with my life? And I was like, man, like I just want to like impact people. The story that I have and what I've been through, I feel like that like it's meant for something, you know. And he said, man, he says like you have a lot of great ideas, and he said you're really gifted and you're really talented, but he was like you need focus in your life. And he was like one of the things that I did that allowed me to have focus in my life is he said I created a mission statement, and so he walked me through this process of creating a mission statement for my life. And so I remember when I wrote it down, it was I want to use my experiences to help others overcome adversity in life and business. And when I did that, I was like, man, like that's it. That was the first time that I had like clarity as to, man, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Yes, I maybe could do this and I maybe could do that, but this was really the lens that I could utilize to say yes and no to opportunities in life. And so that's what it is. And so when I identified that I'm supposed to use my experiences to help others overcome adversity in life, I knew that yes, the t-shirt line was a good thing, but it wasn't the main focus that I should actually have with my life. There was something else that I should be doing. And so with that, I decided, you know what? I'm actually going to move forward with getting my story out there. And so at that moment, I decided, you know what? I'm actually going to write a book, right? And so I make this decision that I'm going to write a book. And when I wrote this book, like my number one focus of this book was that, like, even when I wrote my mission statement, I said it's to use my experiences to help others overcome adversity in life and business. But I wanted other people to know that your experiences are the window to opportunities in life. And so, what I mean by that, a lot of times we have questions about what it is that we should be doing, but we don't oftentimes realize that maybe we have breadcrumbs from our lives that have been laying the foundation or been kind of jumping out to us, but we just haven't noticed it yet. And so, when I thought about my experiences, like a lot of people are going through the same things that you have challenges with. They're going through the same things that you have experience with. And if you made a decision that, hey, I'm going to assist other people do the things that I have done, that what you will find, like your experiences weren't for nothing, right? Your experience weren't for nothing. Like you went through that, and now you can actually help others that are right now in the midst of that. And I came up with this concept of like being the bridge, right? So like people are right now, right? You went through an adversity, and then you got over that adversity. And now what you have the opportunity to do is to say, now that you're on the other side and you see what that looks like, you can actually go and rescue people that were once in that position that you are in, and you can actually bring them over to the other side to experience life different than what they have ever experienced it before. And so I was like, boom, that was it. Like that was the focus of the book, to get people to chase dreams, to get people to know what it is that they should be doing with their lives. But even when I wrote this book, there was some reason that I just didn't feel like I was committed to it fully, right? I was like, man, I feel like this is it, but I still questioned myself, like, is this really it? Like, is this really what you're supposed to be doing with your life? And so I remember I was searching, like, trying to find out answers to this. And so that led me to this book called The Purpose Driven Life. It's written by Rick Warren, I believe it is. And when I was reading this, um, what I was able to discover during my time with this is that I'm not the only person that's struggling with this question of what am I supposed to be doing with my life. This is one of the most bought books out there that exists. I think it said it's second to the Bible, if I'm not mistaken, right? And so there are millions and millions of people that are questioning what their purpose is in their life, what they should be doing with their life. And so when I identified that I'm not the only one struggling with this, it was actually a relief for me, right? Because for a period of time, I was like, man, I'm the only one that's in this thing. But then I was able to realize that there are millions of people that are gifted. There's millions of people that are talented, but they just don't know what's the one thing that they should be focusing on with their lives. And a lot of times people will, there's a really prevalent quote out there. It's like, man, you should stay in your lane, right? Stay in your lane, stay in your lane. How can you stay in your lane if you don't even know what your lane is? Right? How can you stay in your lane if you don't even know the lane that you're supposed to be in? I think when people are hopping from lane to lane and trying this thing and trying that thing out, it's actually identifying it. Well, it should be to the masses that they just haven't figured out the one thing that they should be focused on. And so that led to my next aha moment, which is that, like, we should, like, what if there was a community, right? What if there was a space that was dedicated to helping people identifying what their lane is, right? Well, like, what if there was a platform for this sole topic? And so the question that I had with that is that, like, what if you knew without a shadow of a doubt, what if you were 100% certain that this is what you should be doing with your life? I think that there would be an extreme amount of clarity that you would have. I think that you would actually move with such confidence because you know what you should be doing, and you won't be, shifting back and forth or swerving from lane to lane because you know what you should be doing. But what happens to those individuals that don't know what their lane is, right? What happens to the millions of people that are still there questioning what it is that I should be doing with my life? I think they live below the potential that they have. I think they live below the potential that they have. We have this extreme amount of potential that we all possess. But when you don't know what you're supposed to be pushing your potential towards, it allows you to not ever really see what that is. Like, people question if those that know what their lane is, like, do they possess something different that I don't possess? Like when we live in a culture that has so many people that it seems like they have it figured out. And so if I'm the one person that doesn't have it figured out, then what's wrong with me? And so I believe that there are way too many people out there that are questioning themselves. They're questioning their abilities, questioning whether or not they have a purpose in life. And I've had those same questions myself. And so it just made me want to do something about it. And so the whole purpose of Identify Your Lane is this: I'm going to help you discover the process, the whole formula to make the decision of which lane is right for you. Like, how do you know that you're going in the right direction? These are the things that we're going to be discovering. And so what you can expect from Identify Your Lane is this: I'm going to interview guests that have mastered their lane, and we're going to dive deeper into how did they know that this was it for them. Like, there had to be some defining moment. There had to be some clarity that they received. And so we're going to get into that. And so if you're somebody, if you're somebody that has been struggling with clarity, right? If you've been struggling with clarity and you want to find out what direction that you should be going in with your life, then guess what? The Identify Your Lane podcast is the right podcast for you. And so I'm excited to go on this journey with you to identify your lane. Let's go.